Welcome to Facebook Live and YouTube Live with me, Acrylic Diva here at your service. Today's topic is going to be all about color mixing. Now, this is a big topic for me, as it probably is for you. This is huge, and I don't know how many times in classes and workshops and just about any place I go, I run into people who are pulling their hair out because they can't mix color or they think they can't mix color properly. So if you're mixing color on a routine basis and you're getting muddy colors, or you are not getting the color you want and you're having to throw paint away, that's a bummer, right? And you're wasting money. So hang with me today. I'm going to show you how to make some beautiful color. You're going to make a lot of color from just 3 primaries. I'm going to show you these right now. We're going to use Quin Magenta. Let me get my fingers out of the way. We're going to use Quin Magenta. You know how much I love Quin Magenta. Hansa Yellow. Turn it so you can see it. Hansa Yellow Medium. And Phthalo Blue Green Shade. Whoops, turn it so you can see it. Those are my 3 mixing primaries right there. That's it, baby. That's all you need, okay? And then we're going to throw a little titanium white in for good measure. But the first thing I want to talk about is what I like to call the nomenclature of color. Big word, right? Really good Scrabble word, nomenclature. What that means is it's words about color. So, to really have a good idea about what color does, we have to break it down. And one of the things you're going to want to take a look at when you're looking at color is the complexity of the color. So, for instance, are you working with a red that is on the blue side of the spectrum? Here, Quin Magenta. Look how blue that is, okay? That's a really cool red. On the other hand, what if I'm using a pyrrole red? Pyrrole red has a lot more yellow in it. Now, it's not just as simple as saying, let's get red and go, right? You need to know what kind of red you need. Do you need a cool red? Do you need a warm red? That kind of stuff. And remember, there are only 3 basic colors: a blue of some kind, a red of some kind, and a yellow of some kind. And where those colors land on the color wheel is going to be massively important to the kind of color you can get. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to do some mixing exercises and show you what I mean. Well, before I do that, let me talk to you just quickly about a couple of different types of color. Now, when we're talking about pigment, when we talk about putting pigment in binder and making paint, the only thing that changes when you're working with paint, the only thing that really changes is the binder. The pigment always stays the same. So if you've got ultramarine blue pigment and you put it in a polymer binder, you're going to make acrylic paint. If you take that same ultramarine blue and you put it in linseed oil or stand oil or something like that, you can make oil paint. Put it in gum arabic, you can make watercolor. Mix it with an egg, you can make egg tempera, and so on. The common thread here is the pigment. The pigment does not change. So this information that I'm going to give you about color works across the board. Oil paint, watercolor, acrylic paint, tempera, gouache, you name it. Whatever kind of paint you're using, this color information is going to be spot on for you, okay? All right. 2 types of color, 2 things I want you to really remember when you are mixing color. And this is massively important. It's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to save you a lot of frustration. So pay attention, my darlings. Pay attention. The kind of pigment you're using is going to affect the kind of color you get. So for instance, if you are using what we call mineral pigments, these are the air quotes now, these are the old-fashioned pigments that we would have found on the palette of Rembrandt or Titian or Van Gogh or any of those cool guys. We would have found them on their palette. Ultramarine, burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, the cadmiums, all of those colors, these are old colors. Some of them have been around for thousands of years, and we love them. They're gorgeous, right? And if you want to mix kind of more muted color, these mineral pigments are going to be perfect for that, because when you take two mineral pigments and you mix them together, you get muted color. For the most part, you get muted color, okay? Now that's great. There's nothing wrong with muted color. Love me some muted color. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to mix some gorgeous muted colors today. However, what if you're trying to get really bright, high key, what we call high key, intense chroma? These are all good words, right? Intense chroma. If you're trying to get that high key color, you cannot do it with those mineral pigments. And you can monkey around a little bit with them and do some fancy footwork, but for the most part, you are going to need what I call modern pigments. Now, just to recap really quickly for those of you that just popped into the room with us, we're talking about mineral and modern pigments. Mineral pigments being the ones that have been around for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. Rembrandt would have those kind of pigments, Titian, Vermeer, Van Gogh, those guys. And those kind of pigments, I'm going to talk kind of fast to kind of make up for the time. Those kind of pigments would be cadmiums, burnt umber, ochre. Hi, Granny, I see you there. Ochre, cadmiums, ultramarine, cobalt, all of those kind of pigments are going to be your mineral pigments. When we mix them, we're going to make muted secondary color. On the other hand, your modern pigments, quinacridones, I'm going to show this to the camera. I think I am. Quinacridones, phthalos, dioxazine, all of these pigments, these have been around only for about the past 50 to 75 years. They're made in a laboratory. They mix really bright secondary color. They are very strong and they're very light fast, okay? So if you are trying to make good clean color, I really recommend these three guys as your primary colors. And I'm going to go to the overhead camera so you can see me a little better. See what I'm doing here. So I'm going to recommend your three primary colors should be these guys: quinacridone magenta, Hansa yellow, and phthalo blue green shade. And then you can add in titanium white to mix with. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I am going to mix some colors head to head so that I can kind of show you what the issue is between these mineral and modern pigments. So here is a cadmium red. I'm going to put a little bit of that out. And here is an ultramarine blue. Now, you may be thinking that you put a blue and a red together and you get purple, right? But that's not going to be the case with these two, because these are mineral pigments. So what's going to happen when I get these two together, I'm going to get a little of my red, get a little bit of my ultramarine, and see what's happening right away. It's going brown. No matter how much ultramarine I put in there, it's going to be brown. There's no way in heck that I am ever going to get a purple out of that. Now, it may be hard for you to see on the camera. I'm just going to keep mixing here. Maybe hard for you to see on the camera, but one of the very best ways for you to check color when you're mixing it is to add a little bit of titanium white. Titanium white will help you see the color. I'm going to add just a drop there. Titanium white will help you see the color because human beings have a hard time seeing dark colors. Without the light, we have a really hard time seeing it. So have you ever tried to like buy a dark brown or navy blue sweater, and you have to take it and look at the window, go by the window to see what color it really is? That's exactly what happens when we're making color and we're mixing paint. We cannot see the difference between dark blue, dark brown, black, all of those dark colors. So see how I've mixed this right here? I put the titanium white, and in my camera it looks kind of blue. So that just may be the calibration on my monitor. But this is a kind of a muddy purple right now. Okay? So now I'm going to put that out over here so you can kind of see that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of quinacridone magenta, and you'll notice that the cadmium red I used and the ultramarine were heavy body, and I'm going to use fluid here. And it doesn't matter because pigment is pigment is pigment, right? It doesn't matter where I get my pigment from. It's always, oops, my phthalo blue's gone crazy there. Pigment's always pigment. It's the binder that changes, so you don't have to worry about whether it's heavy body or fluid. So now I'm going to take my Quin Magenta, and you know, phthalo blue is so strong. Oh my gosh, phthalo blue, it's insanely strong. So look at the tiny amount of phthalo blue I'm going to take. Look at that. Can you even see that? It's on the tip of my brush. It's super tiny. And now look at this really powerful purple that I've made. Super yummy. I'm going to put a drop of titanium so you can see. Look at that. Ba-bam. Now let's put that next to this guy. You should really clearly be able to see one is very vibrant and one is kind of muddy. See this one here, this is made with my quinacridone, and this one over here is made with my ultramarine and my cadmium red. Okay, so we've got the green here that looks a little on the yellow side for the one that he's got for Madame Matisse. So I'm going to grab just a little bit of blue, just a little bit of that phthalo blue, and push it in there and see how I have blued up that green a little bit. Now we're getting closer to the color that is in the painting next to Madame Matisse's head. Okay, so we're just going to pop that out over there. Still a little bit too bright. Let's put a little bit more blue in it, and maybe just a tiny bit of the Quin Magenta. That'll brown it down ever so slightly, and I'm liking that a little better. So we'll put that over there, okay? So we've got a couple of greens going, and let's look at that kind of orange that she has. All right, so we've got that green there. Now what I want to do is I was going to make the orange that Madame Matisse has got in her blouse. So let's do that really quick. I'm going to take my Quin Magenta and I'm going to take a tiny bit of my Hansa Yellow, and that kind of gives me the basis for an orange there, but clearly that's too bright. I'm going to grab a little bit of titanium white just so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, see, that's way too bright for the orange that she's got in her shirt. So let's saturate that color a little bit more. Grab a little bit more of the Hansa Yellow. I'm liking that a little bit better. And I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to grab just the tiniest bit of that green and put it into that orange just to brown it down ever so slightly, because green and red are complementary colors and the orange is right in the red neighborhood. So that's going to help to brown that down a little bit. You see that shift there? So let's put that out. That's actually a really nice color. Now I want to make an orange that's really too bright for what's going on and show you the difference. So here is my Quin Magenta and my Hansa Yellow, and this orange, let's make it a little bit more yellow. I'm going to put that out right next to this, and you can see the difference there. This one is way too vibrant. This is more like what Madame Matisse has going on there in her shirt. So are you kind of getting the feel for how you can take these very vibrant colors and just by using complementary mixtures, you can brown them down and really get nice mixtures. Okay? All right. So now what I want to do is just do some kind of random mixing. I just want to show you how much fun this can be. So let me get some stuff out of the way here. All right, so I'm going to start with just bubblegum pink. Just, you know, kind of an kind of an icky bubblegum pink, okay? I'm going to put a little glazing liquid in it because I want to make sure things stay wet long enough for me to mix a bunch of colors. So I'm going to just pour out some blobs of glazing liquid, 2 or 3 of those. And now I'll just dip my brush in glazing liquid. That keeps things wet and workable for a while. Now I've got this really bright pink, and I'm going to mute it down slightly. Here I come back to my green. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that green. Look at that. I'm going to just work it right into that pink. See how it shifted the pink over to a really nice muted color. Now let me just wash my brush a little bit. Let's grab a little titanium white. Now I'm going to go back to that pink. And you can have a lot of fun with this. That, remember now, that's the pink that has a little bit of green in it. Okay, now I'm down here. Let's warm it up a little bit. Let's just add a little bit of Hansa yellow. Get a little glazing liquid in my paint there so I can work with it for a long time. Clean my brush a little bit because it had a little bit of red in it, and now I'm going to grab the tiniest possible amount of phthalo blue, little glazing liquid. I'm going to go right into that Hansa, grab a little bit more Hansa, now I'm in kind of green gold land. Little bit of titanium white down here. Now I'm going to add a tiny bit of Quin Magenta, super tiny. See how I shifted that green gold over. Now you can see, I'm going to just hold this so you can see I started up here with bubblegum pink. I added a little bit of the green to it to mute it down. Titanium white, back to bubblegum pink, added some Hansa yellow, added some phthalo blue, added more Hansa yellow, added some white, added some bubblegum pink again. So this whole thing right here, remember, was done with just my 3 primary colors. And I could go on mixing like this all day. I mean, this is like a kind of an obsession with me, right? Let me do another one for you. I'm going to do it right next to this one, and we're going to start out this time with baby blue, just this super pastel baby blue with phthalo blue mixed with a lot of titanium white. Grab a little bit of glazing liquid so it stays wet. Mix that up. Start up here. Whoops, my brush is dirty. I had a little, looks like I had a little green on it. Since I had a little green on it, let's just jump right over into cobalt teal land. So I'm going to grab a little Hansa yellow, little bit of Hansa yellow. I got a little bit too much Hansa yellow there, so let's grab a little bit more phthalo. There we go. See how I'm shifting that baby blue over to a green right here? Grab a little bit of the titanium white there. Getting over in cobalt teal land now. Getting there. Need a little glazing liquid. See that? See how I went from this really blue and I shifted it down into this green color? Now, the interesting thing about that is that you have the ability to do this with just these 3 primaries, okay? So if I take this lovely kind of teal color that I've made, let's take some of that. I'm going to have to make some because I don't have any wet. So let's take that. Got a little bit of that baby blue, add some green to it. Get it a little bit too green. Now come back, grab a little phthalo, get it over in that, let me get a little space here, get it over in that kind of teal range. There we go. Now, what happens if I take this mixture and I add quinacridone magenta to it, which is its complementary color. It's across the color wheel. So here we go. Here's my green mixture. It's a little bit too green to be the teal that I was working with earlier. Let's make it a tiny bit bluer. There. That's more where I wanted it. And I want to put a little titanium white in it. There we go. Now I'm going to take a little quin magenta and just grab a tiny bit of quin magenta right there. Oops, that's too much. One of the things I want you to think about when you're mixing color is mixing in these teeny weeny increments. So not just blob and blob, okay? A tiny bit. I'm taking a tiny bit of that quin magenta and I'm going to put it in over here. Now look at that gorgeous color that I've created. I've grayed down this kind of greeny blue that I've made. I grayed it down. Now I'm going to add a little titanium white to it. Look at this. Really pretty color. My brush is a little dirty, but do you get the idea here? The power of this kind of mixing with just these three primaries. Everything I've made is just from these three little babies right here. Okay? This is pretty powerful stuff, okay? Now, one thing to remember is that, let me wash my brush and get a clean page here, but look at those gorgeous colors. Isn't it astonishing what you can get with just those three primaries? Yum! I love those primaries. Okay, now what I want you to remember, I'm going to make a quick color wheel right here in front of you, and I've got a dirty palette, so I might make one or two muddy colors. But let's start with Hansa Yellow. Wash my brush. Get my brush clean between colors here. Hansa Yellow, Quin Magenta, and Phthalo Blue. Okay? Those are your three primaries. Now, I get this question over and over and over again, and I want to clarify something. This is not primary red. This is quinacridone magenta. Now, why am I using this instead of primary red? Well, most people consider cadmium red or pyrrole red to be a primary red. Now, if you look at that, you look at pyrrole red and you look at cadmium red, they both land pretty close to one another on the color wheel. And where they land is right about here, in between quinacridone magenta and Hansa Yellow. They're both a very warm red. Now, the interesting thing about this is if I use this as my primary red, I can't make that. There's no way I can make quinacridone magenta with this, and I'm going to prove it to you. So here we go. If this is my primary red, I'm going to just go over here and put it out. Add my titanium white, because I need titanium white to make that bright mixture, right? There's my titanium white. Get my red. Beautiful red. Pyrrole red's gorgeous, right? Here's my titanium. Okay, well, that's my mixture. That's my tint. Anytime you add white to a color, it's called tinting it. That is never going to be pink. Never, never, never. Okay? And why do we care? Well, how am I going to get beautiful purples if I don't have this magenta? It's going to be really tough. If I take this pyrrole red and my phthalo blue and I try to make purple, I'm going to get kind of the same thing I get when I use Cad Red and Phthalo, or Cad Red and Ultramarine. So here's my Cad Red, I mean my Pyrrole Red. Here's my Ultramarine. I mean, gosh, you guys, Pyrrole Red and Phthalo Blue. Let's get that straight. All right, so see here, it's just not going to make that brilliant color, right? No matter how much of the two of them I use, it's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's always going to be in that brown range. So when you're looking for a primary red, think about how much yellow this red has in it. You're already way over here on the color wheel. You're already way over here. How are you going to fill this color space? It's going to be tough. So what I want you to think about doing is using these three colors as your primary mixing colors, and it gives you a lot more latitude, okay? I will be checking in with you all on Facebook and Twitter and all that other good stuff. Catch me Thursday nights on the other YouTube channel, Acrylic Diva Workshops for Creative Flow, where we will have some wonderful music and paint some wonderful stuff, okay? In the meantime, keep painting out there, you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, okay? Bye-bye.